Okay. Okay, guys. So today we'll continue working on the speaking section. We'll continue working on test number 1 of the speaking section. And we're going to be listening to some sample responses and, of course, practicing as well. Okay. So let's see. Okay, guys. So could anybody please read this question that we have in here?
Do you agree or disagree with this following sentence? We can learn a lot from making mistakes.
Okay. So first we're going to listen to how somebody responded to this question. This is a sample response of a score 5 level. Okay. I want you guys just to hear it, and then we'll be analyzing the elements of this response. Let's hear what we have.
I totally agree that we can learn a lot from making mistakes. First of all, we always remember how our past mistakes made us feel, and since they usually make us feel really terrible, we try to avoid repeating them so we don't feel that way again. We also take deliberate action to avoid it. For instance, last year before my big science midterm, I made the mistake of playing video games all day long. As a result, of course, I failed the test and I felt miserable. But I learned from that it's very important to study and to prepare for tests. So the next year, during exam season, I buckled down, I studied, and I learned a lot.
Okay. So what do you guys think of the response?
It has everything like introduction and the option and support with that example.
Exactly. So yeah, it was a very complete response. As we can see, it has all the elements that we were talking about. You have an introduction first, you have the reason, and an example, right? And it doesn't even have a conclusion, and it was 45 seconds. So that's what I was telling you yesterday. You can totally have, you only need to have an introduction, your reason, and your example, and that's really everything that you need, right? You do not really need more than one reason, you do not need a conclusion or more than one example. That's about all you need. And if we look at this is a transcript of the response that we just heard, you can see that how the how the elements are being presented, right? We can see, for example, in the introduction, we have I totally agree that we can learn a lot from making mistakes. So it's kind of what I was telling you yesterday. It has the same verb, agree, because this was a question, do you agree or disagree? So we have the same verb, agree. It has an adverb, totally in this case, and then he is repeating the same statement, right? It's better to just copy and paste. Don't worry too much about paraphrasing it, because you don't need to. You're gonna use your own vocabulary for the rest of the response, so it's fine if in your introduction you just copy and paste from the question. And then as you can see, this person has some transition words, right? So those are really great in order to connect ideas. First of all, for instance, nevertheless, thus, as a result, those are really great if you guys can use it. And try to always, from now on, every time that you speak, try to correct yourself. And instead of saying, so, and that, because, try to change those connectors for something else. So instead of saying so, you can say as a result. Instead of saying but, you can say however, right? Try to start getting used to using those transitions. Now, what else? As you can see, we have the reason here, and the example has a lot of details, right? You have a specific date last year. You have a specific exam, my science midterm. I made this specific mistake, right, of playing video games, and I failed the test. I felt miserable. So as you can see, you have a lot of details in the example. And one thing I wanted to say, do you guys notice how having a personal experience as an example can like give you the chance of using more grammar? Because here, for instance, he's using different tenses, right? He's using the simple past, he's using the simple present. So that adds grammar variety to the response. Another thing, if we look at the vocabulary, I guess this is the same tip that I was giving you guys for the reading section. The quickest way to improve and expand your vocabulary is by memorizing a couple of adjectives, right? So try to memorize a synonym for the word bad. So in this case, he's not saying this make us feel really bad. He's saying terrible, right? Instead of saying terrible, now he's saying miserable. So those adjectives are what's gonna level up your vocabulary in this sense. So look for synonyms to the most common adjectives, right? Like important, good, bad, pretty, ugly, short, long. Try to find some synonyms for those words. Okay. So is that okay? Do you guys have any questions about this one in here? Let's listen to one more so that you can see maybe a different type of structure that you can also use. So Alexandra, could you please read this question?
Yes. Do you think it's a good idea for children to help their parents with household chores as soon as they are old enough? Use details and examples in your response.
Okay, now we're gonna listen to another sample response to see how the structure of this one is, see the differences, and analyze it as well.
I think it's a great idea for kids to do household chores as soon as they're old enough. First of all, this can teach children some really valuable skills that will come in handy later in life. For instance, I was responsible for cooking breakfast for my little brother every day before we went to school when we were both kids. As a result, when I went away to college as a teenager, I stayed really healthy because I could cook my own meals instead of always going out for fast food like my friends and classmates. Secondly, parents and children can do household chores together, and this gives them a chance to bond. You know, as they work on things like cleaning dishes or cooking food, they can chat, and the kids might open up about what's going on in their lives.
Okay, so this was another complete response, but it had a different structure, right? In this case, how many reasons did he have? He had two reasons, right? He didn't have only one in this case. But it still works. Both of them are great. So in this case, look at how, in this case, the question is, do you think it's a good idea? Right? That is the question. So the verb is think, right? Same verb is the one that he's using in his introduction. So I think. You know, he could have used an adverb as well. He could have said, I absolutely think it's a great idea. And I like the fact that instead of saying good, he's changing that, right? That's what I was telling you right now. So maybe you could use another synonym. I think it's an awesome idea, right? I think it's a fantastic idea for kids to do household chores. You can look for some synonyms to those adjectives, as I was telling you. But the verb should stay the same. If the question is, do you think? Then you answer, I think. And then he is saying what the statement or the idea is, right? For kids to do household chores as soon as they're old enough. But he's summarizing it, right? Instead of saying it's a good idea for children to help their parents with household chores as soon as they are old enough, for kids to do household chores. So he is making it shorter so that he doesn't or waste too much time in the introduction. Now, in this case, he has two reasons, and he has his transition words, first of all, secondly, and his two reasons, right? Number one, this can teach children some really valuable skills. And number two, this gives them a chance to bond, right? Parents and children. So yeah, and then he has one example only for the first reason. Again, it's a personal experience. It has good details. What household chores he did as a kid, how this helped him. And then the second reason doesn't have an example, right? It's not necessary to have two examples. You probably won't make it in time for two. So, but even if it doesn't have an example, it still has some details, right? Cleaning dishes, cooking food, those are details. So, again, you still have these transitions there as a result. So, what else was I gonna say? When you guys give this type of examples, when you have personal experiences as examples, make sure that your examples have three things. Some context as to when and where this happened. So in this case, he says, I was responsible for doing this and this and that every day before we went to school when we were kids, right? So this is the context. When he was a kid, when he went to school every day, that's the when and where. He has the events that, of course, have to be related to the question. The question is kids doing household chores. So the events of the example are related. He was a kid and he did household chores. He has details, cooking breakfast. And then he has the result of the example. So you have to give context, the event, and the resolution or the result of the example. So then he learned, right? And this is related to his reason. He learned a valuable skill by doing household chores when he was a kid. So is this okay? Any questions? Are you guys ready to practice?
Everything is clear.
Okay, guys, great. So let's do some practice questions. Okay. See.
Miss, sorry, can I use however but it's the same?
Yeah. However, it's a synonym of that.
Thank you.
Yes, another word you can use, nevertheless, nonetheless, or still is also a synonym. Or yet. That's another one. Okay. Okay, let's start doing this one here. And as we go, we're gonna see what the topics of the questions are. You always have the same topics. These are usually everyday topics, things that you could discuss about. And so, for example, technology is one of the biggest topics that you have here. And by the way, I'm also gonna be sending you guys a word list of expressions and vocabulary for these topics. Okay? But let's start doing this one here. It says, some people think that modern technology has made people's lives simpler. Others believe it has made people's lives more complicated. Which point of view do you agree with? Explain why. So now you will have 15 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay, so who wants to go first? Who wants to try? Maybe Alexandra, do you want to try first?
Okay,
Okay, please go ahead.
I totally agree with modern technology has people life easily because there are so many options. Like, for example, there are so many options like that technology can help you, like research information or some assistant with artificial intelligence where it can help you with some as sorry with some duties on your house. For example, I have an Alexa, so I can control the lights on my home through it.
Okay, great, perfect. So, you started good. I mean, it was a great response. You did have your reason, you had examples, you had details in your response, your introduction, had everything you needed to have. Now, some tips I can give you. The first one, careful with your introduction. When you have the verb agree and disagree, I don't know if we talked about this yesterday, but there are two options, right? You can either say, I agree that, or I agree with. If you say I agree with, it has to be a thing, a noun, it could be a thing or a person, right? I agree with this statement or with this point of view. But if you're gonna say what that idea is or what that point of view is, you say, I agree that technology has made people's lives simpler, right? Or easier. Great. And you have your reason. You know, it's the first one that we did, but you're gonna notice that we'll have a lot of technology topics. So from now on, my suggestion is make sure that you always have one advantage or one benefit of technology that you will always use whenever you have this type of questions, because it is very common, one or two. So in this case, I like the one that you were using. It has made, like, it helped us do household tasks, right? That's what you said. So you can use that one and then go directly to your example, your personal example, right? With the details. So like you used for like the Alexa example. But make sure that you have your reason already prepared so that you don't waste time trying to think of your reason there. Okay. Any questions? Is this clear? Everything clear? Okay, guys. Now this question here says, do you agree or disagree with the following statement? Teachers should not be too friendly to their students. Use details and examples to explain your answer. You will now have 15 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay, so Betsy, do you want to go?
Okay.
Okay, Go ahead, Alice.
I totally agree with the teachers should be friends with their students because I think confidence they can be more confident to make a questions and talk about their experience or it can be learn from others ways. For example, when I was in the school, I had a teacher so I can tell her different things about my life so it's so more confident so I can ask her different things about the topics or other things that can use in my professional career or other things. So I consider that it's important that the teachers can be your friends and because I
All right, good. So, great. You started good. You do agree that teachers should, well, you disagree that teachers should not be too friendly. You think that they should. And you have your reason, right? Careful with the word confidence. It's not the same as saying trust. It's not the same as in Spanish, right? Confidence means when you're confident, it means that like you believe in yourself, right? You have a maybe high self-esteem, you know that you can do things, that's confidence. But when you want to talk about other people, you can say that you trust them, right? So maybe there's more trust between the students and the professor or the teacher in this case. So careful with that word. And another thing that I would suggest you do, try to give more details in your example, right? So you talked about a teacher that you had back in high school. So be a little bit more specific. Maybe you can say, so when I was in fifth grade or when I was in 11th grade, I had a math teacher, right? And who was really friendly to us. And so that way you're giving more details, right? Or you can mention maybe the age. When I was 15, back in high school, I was in 11th grade, and I had a math teacher who was very friendly to us. And even though math is not an easy subject, we all usually got good grades, right? Because we were able to ask, and then you can talk about what you said, right? So just try to give some more details in your example, and careful with the tenses. Practice the simple past, okay? So that you don't make grammar mistakes with those tenses. Is that okay? Any questions? Okay. Now here we have some people prefer to get information from books. Others prefer using a computer to access information via the internet. Which do you prefer and explain why? You will now have 15 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay, so Alexandra, please, you may begin speaking now.
Personally, I prefer using find information um from books or maybe when I go to the library because I think in internet you can find fake information and fake news. For example, in my last semester I did a project when I was looking information on internet, so I thought it was real, but finally it was bad. As a result, I have a bad mark. So I'm not trusting the internet anymore. For that, I think people should get more information from books and they go to the library and they can find the real information. I think so.
Yay, perfect. I loved your response. I think it was great this time. You went directly for your reason, you had it prepared, and so it was concise, it was clear, and then your example had enough details. You talked about one specific experience, your grammar was good with the example, and I liked that last idea that you had in the conclusion to close it off and to give the recommendation. So I don't think I have any comments. Well done. Careful maybe with the word library, right? Careful with the pronunciation. Only that.
Okay, thank you.
Right? So here we'll see this question. It says, do you agree or disagree with the following statement? Use details and examples to explain your opinion. Having power and money is the best definition of success. You will now have 15 seconds to prepare your response. Okay, please. You may start now.
I totally disagree with that having power and money is the best definition of success because I think that if you have values, it's more important to have other things that can be material things. So, for example, if you have a lot of money, you can buy subject things or values and other things that it can give you to others. More important thing about the life, you cannot buy the happiness and other values that is important to have a beautiful life and a beauty way to live, I think.
Okay, all right. And other values that are important, right? Okay. So one thing, try not to say I think too much. The only place where you can use I think is when you give your opinion, but then when you explain your reasons or you give examples, try not to use I think. Just say them like they were facts. Now in this case, you had a good reason. You said, you said that power and money is not the best definition of success because your values are, right? So it's good. Now I noticed that you were making a contrast. You were saying on one hand, if you have power and money, you can buy a lot of things. So you were speaking about things in general, too general, right? So you said about things, values, you can buy a lot of things, but we don't know what those things are, right? And in your example, you should try giving examples. So if you want to do that contrast, you can do it, but give specific details. Like, for instance, if you have power and money, you may be able to buy a nice house, right? So I'm saying what things specifically instead of things in general. You may have a great car. You may have I don't know, a good cell phone. However, you won't have I don't know, real friends. So I am using really specific details for those things. Okay? That'd be the only thing. Try to be a bit more detailed. Don't be so vague. But it was good. Or aside from that detail. Is that okay? Any questions so far? Okay. So here we have a university wants to require all students to have their own laptop computers. Do you agree or disagree with this policy? Give specific reasons to support your opinion. You guys will now have 15 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay. So please, Alexandra, you may go ahead.
Okay. I totally disagree with this statement because not every student can buy. They sometimes cannot have enough money to buy a laptop for go to the university. For example, in my class, there was a girl that she couldn't buy a specific laptop because we study design. So this equipment is not is you need to some specification to work it with this. So sometimes this kind of computer they are so expensive. So I believe the university should be have a lab.
Okay. The university should provide maybe, right, the students with laptops or with, yeah. Okay, good. So I love the structure, great reason. Not all students have enough money to buy computers for university. When you want to say that structure, you can use the word afford, right? You can say not all students can afford a computer. Instead of saying having enough money to buy, afford something. And great reason. I love the details in your reason. So you talked about one specific friend you had, and you mentioned the details of what, what you're studying and so forth. So great. Continue doing that well. Perfect. Any questions? All right. Okay, so this question here says, imagine that you must decide between two homes to live in. One place is very large and brand new, but it is very far from work or university. The second is very small and old, but you would be able to get to work or university in less than 5 minutes. Which place would you prefer to live in? Explain why. 15 seconds to prepare now. Okay, so please, Fancy, you can start now.
Okay, I prefer live in a small and old house because I can add details and get more beautiful house because we can make a change so it does imply that it always be a smaller and old house. So for example, when I was younger, I had an old house and a small house, but it's important you can how to see it. You can make different changes and different add different details, so it's more comfortable. So it is important to get work or university in 5 minutes. So that's important in the detail.
Okay, good. So that idea that you said that it is important to be close or near your university or work, I think maybe that's the idea that you should have tried to use as your main idea, right? Because the real reason why you would choose an old and small place is because it's closer to university. So the main idea would be to explain why it's important to be close to university or work, right? So give me reasons on why it's important. Maybe because you save money on transport. Maybe because you save time. I don't know. Maybe because it's more convenient. I don't know. Or maybe because you save money on like accommodation. You don't have to live inside the campus, but you can live close to it. So try to explore more those ideas. When you have this type of thing, this is it's a different type of question, right? When they give you two theoretical situations. So imagine that you have option A. Option A is this, but it has this disadvantage, right? Or option B, that is good in that sense, but has this other disadvantage. So if you have those situations, the best way to support your choice is by proving how the other one couldn't be, or how this one is better than the other one, right? Try to do that comparison. Maybe that, and careful in your introduction. In this case, when you have these imaginary situations, imagine that you have to choose between these two homes. Since they are imaginary hypothetical situations, then try to use conditional sentences. Or if you're not going to use conditionals, at least say, I would, right? Instead of I prefer to live, I would prefer to live. So I would totally prefer to live in the small and old place, right? Or if you want to add more grammar, and this is like a tip, if you have these questions, and in any question really, you can use a conditional to start, and that adds points for grammar, especially if the introduction is short, so that you won't waste a lot of time. So you could say, if I were to choose, or if I had the chance to choose, I would go for an old and small place, right? So with that conditional, that's the second conditional. You can always memorize the structure, right? If I were to choose, or if I had the choice, I would do this, right? That's another structure you can use for your introductions, especially if you have this type of question. Okay, is that okay? Any questions? All right. Okay, now this one here says, some college students choose to prepare for careers where there are more job opportunities. Others choose to study subjects that interest them regardless of job opportunities. Which do you think is better and why? You will now have 15 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay, so Alexandra, please. You can start now.
If I were to choose, definitely I prefer to study a subject that interesting, that I'm interested on it, that it's made me feel more happy, I think so. For example, in my case, I choose study photography, and for example, my parents told me that I couldn't find a job. Finally, I think it was true, but I always looking for a new opportunities. So definitely, I feel more comfortable for myself, and I love my job. It's just like I try to find.
Okay, perfect, great. So next introduction, you were using that structure. Careful though with the verb choose, right? Remember, choose is in the simple present, chose is in the past, right? And choice is another thing. So if I were to choose, I would choose to study, or if I had the chance to choose, I would study a subject that interests. And great example. I mean, great reason too. It will make you more happy or happier. And great example as well. You had enough details there. So that'd be the only thing. Careful with that one. Okay, so this is similar to the previous one. It says, imagine you're looking for a new place to live near your university. You have two choices. The first place is in a house, which you would share with several other students. The second place is a small apartment, which you would not have to share with others. Which would you choose and explain why? You will now have 15 seconds for your response. All right. So please, Pansy, you may start.
Okay, I prefer living in a small apartment because you're more independent and you can have your own things and not have problems with others. For example, nowadays I live with my parents and my brothers. So sometimes we have a little bit problems because we have to share the things and we have to take a shower. I want to take a shower when my brother wants to do at the same time. So it is a problem that is complicated to do. So it is important for me have more independence.
Great, perfect. It is important for you to have more independence, right? Great, perfect. So now in this case, you have more details. Initially, you were starting to sound vague. You were saying you have to share things, but then you had an example of what you could share, right? And you talked about, so sometimes you have to share the bathroom. So if two people want to shower at the same time, then it's a problem. Great, good example. No comments on this one, well done. Let's see what else we have. Okay, so this one here says, some people are able to make decisions very quickly based on their first thoughts. Other people take a lot of time and think carefully before making a decision. Which do you think is better? Explain why by using details and examples to support your opinion. You will now have 15 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay, guys. So, Alexandra, please, you can start now.
I think it's better when people take a lot of time on their decisions because this it can it can change their life. For example, last year I had to decide between two jobs, so I had to make a list about advantage and disadvantage. And it takes time because I needed to know about money, the salary, about what makes make me feel more comfortable and workplace. I could learn more. So I think I need time.
Okay, great. So it was perfect, and I like the fact that you were able to correct yourself with your tenses, right? So I needed, I could, great. That's a great step because sometimes we don't realize, but when you realize your own mistakes and you're able to correct them, it's a great place to start. So perfect. No comments. Good example. Tell one, and he really explained why it needs time, right? Or what making decisions requires time. Great. Now here we have, do you agree or disagree with the following statement? It is important for children to learn to draw or paint. Use details and examples to explain your. You will now have 15 seconds to prepare your response. Okay, so Nancy, please. You can start now.
Okay, I totally agree, and that it is important for children to learn to draw or paint because they can develop important skills, and it also important use the hands for different things to do, and they can learn about the different images that they can draw or they can paint. For example, when I was younger, I learned different things from draw or paint or use the different colors or using different pens or other things that it can be more comfortable to do other things.
Okay, what do you think? What would you change in your response?
The verbs can be, I don't know.
Okay.
The introduction, I think.
Okay, I think your introduction, your first were good. Just same as I was telling you before, it seems like what you're saying is too ambiguous, right? So you're saying different colors, different things, different skills, but I know it's tough to actually know what to say, what skills. I know that you can learn things, right? But it's difficult to say what things you can learn with art. So this is a common topic, by the way. I've seen things related, this type of questions related to drawing, painting, music, instruments, languages, cultures. So whenever you have one of those questions that are like about uh, this type of activities that are like extracurricular activities, things that are not related to academic stuff, then make sure that you always have in handy some ideas. So for example, in terms of skills, you can talk about developing your intellect or developing your creativity, or I don't know, like in this case, drawing and painting, learning about artists and how they and their I don't know in their history, right, or their the way they communicated certain messages. So try to have some ideas in terms of what skills, what things you learn with art in general, with music, art, visual art, languages, cultures, so that you can use that information when you have this type of question. Okay, that'd be the only thing. Because yeah, there are some questions about this of this type. Now, some material that I wanted to share with you guys. I don't know if I've shared it before, but anyways. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to share, and this is a tip as well, with this specific type of question, you will find a lot of material online to practice. You will find plenty of questions that you can answer, and you are gonna see that you have the questions about the same topics, right? You have education, work, lifestyle, health, technology, the environment. Those are usually the most common topics. So most of the time, you can use the same ideas, the same expressions, even the same reasons for some questions. So what I would suggest you guys do when practicing this question specifically, and what I did when I was practicing, is in a notebook or in a, I don't know, in any paper, try to create your own reason sheet. What is a reason sheet? It's basically, I don't know, a piece of paper where you're gonna be writing down the most common reasons, the ones that you kind of always use. So in this case, this is my reason sheet. I'm gonna share with you guys. So for example, I've seen that most of the time you can use these reasons that you have here. You can always talk about efficiency. So when you save time, when you save money, when you save energy, when you save effort in certain things. So I don't know, if they ask you, like, do you prefer, I don't know, to use a computer or a cell phone? So you could say that maybe using a computer is more efficient because you save time, or buying a cell phone is more efficient because you save money, right? So you can always use this type of reasons. You can also talk about safety. So you can say that something's healthier, that something's less risky, that something, I don't know, is safer or healthier for your physical shape. I don't know. You can always talk about productivity, about concentrating, about having more resources, more tools, more information, about learning more and developing skills. And I think this is the one we were using, right? So you can develop leadership skills, organizational skills, communicational skills, and try to maybe look for more skills that you can use. And if you really don't know what to say, you can just talk about the experience of something being better, right? That's always something that you guys can use. So you can create your own reason sheet, or you can add more reasons to this one here. Try to have that, and try to also start thinking of examples that you can always give. So when they ask you about high school, try to always have one teacher that you're always going to talk about, one classmate that you will always talk about, one class, I don't know, one job that you will always talk about in your examples. So try to do that in order not to run out of ideas and to practice as well. And another thing that I wanted to share with you guys too is what I was telling you about the vocabulary and the expressions for the topics. So let me see where this is. Do you guys have any questions about that reason sheet or what I was telling you? Okay, good. Okay, so this is the one. I'm sending you guys the link to this document as well. And if you take a look at this one, then you will find vocabulary and expressions about those common topics that we were mentioning. So let me see, I don't know what's happening. Okay, so you have, for example, education, work, relationships, business, technology, health, environment, and this will be useful for you for the entire speaking and writing sections, okay? So expressions like related to education, to attend classes, to call attendance, to major in something, boarding school, I don't know, online learning. So try to have these expressions and check them out and try to see them in context as well. Okay, guys? So is this okay? Do you guys have any questions about what we did today?
No, Miss, sorry, can you send us the last?
Yeah, sure. I thought I sent you guys the link, but I don't know.
It is the same that the first you sent us.
Oh, okay, sorry. There you go. Okay, guys, and please, before you go, today we actually have to complete 2 surveys. So I'm sending you the first, and once you're done, I'll be sending the other ones. Okay, thank you so much. That was fast. Now the other one, and I'll see you guys. Well, I don't know if we're gonna have to class tomorrow because it's a holiday here in Bolivia. Well, I don't know where else, but I think somebody's gonna send a text with the WhatsApp chat. Okay,
Okay, and thank you.
bye
Thank
bye.
you.